Hey, what's up guys, Mashine here, come back with a brand new video for you guys. About a month ago, I made a video talking about how I made $10,000 in a month, and today we've got the complete opposite of that, with me being down $10,000 in the past week. The first thing we gotta talk about is obviously the downfall. Now, I'm not gonna be exclusively limiting this to cases because cases have only played a part of this, but we do need to talk about cases. So cases have obviously been on a downward trend for the past couple of days, and you can see by looking at any graph that a lot of progress for these cases have been wiped out. In actuality, this is probably more of a good thing than anything. We're going to be talking a little bit more after a quick word from today's sponsor. Are you looking to grab some of those great looking CS2 skins but don't want to spend a ton of money on Steam tax selling off your current ones? Well, you don't have to with today's sponsor, SkinsMonkey. SkinsMonkey is a trading website that's currently offering you $5 free if you use code MasterShiny, or an additional 35% bonus on new deposits with the code MasterShiny. All you have to do is pick out the skins you no longer want, pick out the skins you do want, and send that trade. And if you don't have any skins, don't worry, they're giving away hundreds of dollars worth of skins all the time. Now, like I mentioned before, I really like when things like this happen. It shows that there is still consistency, there still is things that matter in this area. If we want to look at any of the cases over the past 30 days, we can still see that they have been up, and this is not exclusive to one specific area. If we look at the older, the middle, and even the newer cases, they're all up in the past 30 days, which is exactly what we want to see, because we want to see growth, but we don't want to see extreme growth, especially in a time like now. However, we also have some other things that have played into this downfall, the first of which is going to be capsules. Now, capsules haven't gone down a ton, but in the past week, looking at my total inventory chart for these capsules, you can see that they have played an impact, especially Antwerp and Stockholm being down a decent amount. Nothing too concerning there, honestly. I think that's just a little bit of fluctuation because Paris is so close, which we're going to talk about in just a quick second. And the last thing playing into that downfall has obviously got to be skins. Skins are a little bit of a mixed bag because we have more liquid skins like the red line that are down potentially 25%, which is not too surprising considering everything else in that area is down. But then we've also got the general trends of these, just sorting them by their rarity. As you can see, a lot of these skins are still on the increase overall, which is something that we do like to see because it shows that people are still obviously interested in these skins. Now, talking about why these things decrease, well, there's one big factor in the room, and that's obviously got to be Paris. Paris is right around the corner. We're expecting to get these items very, very, very soon. I mean, it is not long till we get the Paris item. It's going to be less than a week. I can pretty much guarantee it. And that's very important because people are selling off their items in order to get funds for Paris so they could potentially buy into Paris. It's the whole cycle. It's something that consistently happens. What doesn't consistently happen, though, is the Anubis package that was just released, which triggered a little bit of a downfall on its own. As you can see, almost $11 million was directly put into Valve's pocket on the pretty much first day of these alone, which is a very concerning sight to see, and it's not something that we really expected, which is why it triggered a little bit of a downward trend in the market. Not something that's in long term going to probably impact it, just sets up a really odd precedent at this point, and something I'm a little bit confused, a little bit concerned, and a little bit intrigued about where these are going to be moving forward. And then the last thing, which I'm sure you've probably been thinking in the back of your mind, is obviously CS2. CS2 pumped up prices because people were very excited, and it's just seeming like the hype is fading away a little bit. As we know, a lot of people still don't have CS2, and until CS2 is fully released, I don't expect this hype to really return too much. Prices are still inflated from before the hype, and that's something I want to make abundantly clear. This hype was a good thing for investors, but it's not something that we considerably thought was going to be sustainable for the next 3-4 months before CS2 came out. It's not like that. We saw our growth potentially capitalize a little bit on it, and it's something that we really wanted to see come back down so people could have a chance to invest. Now, talking about the takeaways from something like this, the first one is obviously going to be grab profit. I made a decent amount of videos talking about how you should potentially be thinking about selling off some of your items. It's something that I highly suggest. I sold off about 6% of my inventory so I could have $2,000 to play with for Paris. It's something that you should be doing, especially if you do know you want to reinvest in the future. I've got money for Paris now, and I'm not forced to sell off at these extremely low prices, get hit with a Steam fee on top of it. It's just not something that's very ideal if you're trying to sell now. This is why we always encourage you to be taking out at least some of your profits. You don't have to sell it all, just sell a little bit and get the majority of your capital back. The other thing that's very important is you need to have patience in an area like this. The CSGO market moves very quickly, and that's because it is a very volatile area. It's high risk, and therefore it attracts a lot of people who are maybe a little bit more on the side of gambling than anything everything else, and therefore they want to see quick movements in their money. That's not always going to happen, and in fact that usually doesn't happen. Anytime we see a peak like this, it's something that a lot of people come into the scene and immediately think they're going to be making a ton of quick money. It's not like that. You're probably not going to be consistently sticking around, and you're going to be selling off for a loss almost all the time. However, there's always some good news to come along with some of these things, and we do have some good news. The first of which is you definitely made money if you invested in before all of this CS2 hype. As you can see, my total inventory graph is still up quite considerably, and if you're not in profit yet, there's no one stopping you from holding on to your investments for the next couple of months to potentially a year and ending up in profit. That's the one greatest thing about the CSGO market, is everyone has a pretty fair chance at making some profit. But more importantly, we've still got some things that are pretty quickly on the move. The first of which is the Deagle Blaze. I really haven't talked about it much because it doesn't impact too many of my viewers, but look at this graph. I mean, there is no denying that this is a very expensive item, and it's getting even more expensive. Doubling in price in the past month is not something we usually see for high tier items, especially ones like this, where it really didn't see too much movement when we saw CS2 released, but now it's starting to get a little bit more traction behind it, so to say. The other thing is the Dust 2 souvenir packages. I get a ton of comments about these. I'm not a fan of the Dust 2 souvenir packages. I find it hard to believe something like this is going to rival the Cobblestone package or whatever the comparisons you see out there on the internet. For me, it's just an area where I tend to be a little bit careful, and I don't really like these souvenir packages moving forward. Souvenir packages, generally speaking, have a really low unboxing rate, a really low ROI, and therefore usually they fall off in hype pretty quickly. This is just generally why I don't avoid in them. I like to go into things that have a high amount of interest, and generally speaking, souvenir packages, especially the Dust 2 ones, usually don't have that. Also, because I don't know where to put this, it seems like unboxing numbers from CSGO Float and the website we were talking about in the past video seems like they've recovered a little bit. Obviously, you can see errors like the CS20 was obviously not unboxed 0 times, but this is a pretty significant improvement and does go back to the theory we had in that video, which 800,000 was too low. And we can go ahead and say this peak is officially over because of the one clearest indicator there is in CSGO investing. And if you're not familiar, it's the sticker capsule 2. The sticker capsule 2 has consistently, time over time, been the most correct indicator for when the hype has officially died off. You can see there is 4 clear peaks on this mark, and all of those peaks are pretty much the exact day when we saw the market start to decrease. It's not something I want you to take away and run away with, but looking retrospectively, we can definitely see that this is probably the beginning of the end for the peak here. I don't think we're going to be seeing too much of a decrease because remember, this peak was different than the other 3. The other 3 were purely hype. This one had some substance behind it with the CS2 coming out and people believing more people are going to come into the game along with more people coming into the game, but it's something I find very humorous. But that's pretty much all I got. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your day.